Okay, let's kick this off. I promised that first we were going to start with how to talk to your kids about money. This is something obviously that we've had a little practice with around here. You know, one of the things that I want to do with my kids is I want to raise independent thinkers about how they do, and I want them to be, should something happen to me, age appropriate, I want them to be already as independent as they can be. And so when we're teaching our kids about how to deal with finances on a daily basis, especially personal finance, we're really teaching them some life lessons. And I apologize, I didn't script any of this thing. I've got some notes, so again, if you see me looking down, we'll get better at this as we go. But I gotta start with the number one way that you can make a difference in your kids' lives when it comes to money is actually talking about it. A lot of generations, a lot of families grew up in households where it was impolite to talk about money, or you know, the saying goes, it's polite to talk about money as long as you're not talking to anybody who makes more money than you or less money than you, right? So talk about it. What we're really building is we're building those independent thinking skills. We're building comfort with delayed gratification is a big one we'll come back to. We're building long-term planning skills, and we're connecting behavior to consequences, right? So that they go hand in hand. And that takes a lot of different shapes. Money's just the conduit by which we're doing that, right? These are big life lessons, and money is a great way to teach those responsibilities. In order to be able to do that and have that responsibility, kids have to have some of their own money. Again, that's different based on what age you are, and sometimes it's not even money when you start off younger. So I'll walk you through kind of what we've done with our kids and what I plan to do with our kids. Also, I'd like to leave you guys with some resources as you go. So if you don't have a pen, grab one of those. I'll link everything in the comments section as well after this if you don't want to grab something right now, or if your hand is full. Not a problem. So for those of you who don't know, and I guess I skipped this because it wasn't in the notes, let me introduce myself. I'm Tony Pampel. I'm the founder and chief planner over at True Life Financial Planning. We're in Dallas, but we've got clients in 5 states. We do everything virtually. You're looking at my office back there behind me, actually. A lot of reasons that we did it that way. But as far as ticking boxes go, I'm a CFP, a certified financial planner. I'm also a CLTC, a CPWA, a CFS. There's another one in there somewhere, and I'm working on an EA. None of those really matter what they mean. It just means that I like what I do, and I study a lot. I geek out about this stuff. So I'm doing a live video chat about financial planning. Yeah, I geek out about it. I'm also a dad. I've got a 7-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son, Emmy and Sam. They are the core of my life, and I do everything around them. And so that's why we're doing this. You know, I learn these technical lessons through books and working with other clients, and then I try to apply them to my life, and it doesn't always work quite the same way. So I like to share stories about what we've done, and for some folks that'll work, or you can kind of twist it to how you need to. So with my kids and where we started, right? 3-year-old kids are old enough to start learning about money, believe it or not. You just can't use money because they don't understand the concept yet. What they can understand is the link between something that they do now or are asked to do and some kind of reward later in the future. So the starting point for the money education for all my kids, both of my kids and some of the kids of folks that I offer planning services to, is we start with 3-year-old with some kind of chore chart. I know, what does a chore chart have to do with teaching kids financial responsibility? But what we're starting with is we're teaching them that if they take an action now, there's going to be a reward later, and it's a very easy to understand and tangible reward for them. So for our kids, it's maybe something out of the candy jar or something out of the treasure chest, which is stickers, erasers, pencils, things like that. It links the behavior to the action, right? And we did it with my daughter. It worked great. We did it with my son. It's working, but we're also working on it, right? So when Emmy hit 5 or 6 and she started to notice things at the store or things on TV or things that her friends had, and she would say, I want that. that's when we knew that it was time to shift the conversation a little bit from that easy to understand, hey, if I make my bed and do the things on my easy to read chore chart, I get a piece of candy. Let's take it up another notch. What we started to do is we sat down and have a conversation with her about, well, things cost money. It's harder in today's world to have that conversation because we don't actually use money most of the time. I'm pretty sure my kids think money is either the coins they get in their piggy bank or plastic, right? We swipe just about everything. But by having a conversation about costs and letting Emmy kind of guide that conversation on how can we, here's this thing that you want and here's the cost for that. And so how can we do that? We shifted again from you get candy if you do this to, okay, each of these chores is worth X amount of money. If it's 25 cents, it's a nickel. If it's $1, it doesn't matter, right? You use what works for you. And also we started to use what's called a money savvy piggy bank. So if you haven't seen these, and I apologize, don't have links for you guys. But if you want to in another window or click on it later in the show notes, the money savvy piggy bank is a little plastic piggy bank. It comes in several sizes and colors, and it's divided into 4 pieces. Those 4 pieces are spending, saving, giving, and investing. A 6-year-old doesn't quite get the concepts of all of those yet, but she did understand that the money is compartmentalized into different pieces, and each piece has a purpose. And so as she started to put her money there and we started to have conversations about, okay, well, how do we use this money? Why are we doing this? Then we got to have conversations about what we spent it for. So in our house, the spending part of the piggy bank is for little things, little day-to-day spending stuff. So Amy went to soccer camp at SMU earlier this summer. They have a little canteen there where kids can buy candy if they want to, or soccer paraphernalia or whatever. That's a spending thing, right? So when she asked for money to go to the candy store, here's the money in your spending jar. That's for little things like that, right? And we've had conversations about that before, so she knows. Saving is for bigger stuff, right? So great opportunity when she sees that thing that she wants on TV that's just $9.99 or 3 installments of whatever. We can have a conversation about how there's not enough in the spending jar for her to get that right now. But we can save for it. And every time you do your chores, you get this much money. And so this is how many times we'll have to do that. And if you don't like how long that's going to take and you want to do it faster, well, then we can come up with some other stuff for you to do and find a way for you to earn a little extra, right? So again, we're linking back those behavior patterns to the consequences. So she can get what she wants, but she's going to work for it and figure out how to do it. The investing piece, the giving conversation is a little tougher with kids than it is with adults. Adults tend to have things that they're already attached to. For kids, I remember the first conversation about giving, and I was trying to explain to Emmy, this is money that we're setting aside for other people who need it. And the immediate thing she thought of was a little girl in her class. Not because the little girl was not well off or needed money. She just was complaining about something that she didn't have. So Emmy wanted to give her the money to get what she wanted, right? And so we had a conversation about kind of what is charity and what is giving, and how do we help people. It's up to her how to do that, right? But we talked to her about the church as a place to give. We've lately had a lot of conversations about the hospital being a place to give. Separate story we don't need to look at tonight, but she's starting to understand by us pointing out these things as we go by. This is somewhere where I can use this money, and that all of that started because we had the conversation, and all of that started with, I think, a $20 piggy bank, if it's that much. It's a prop. It's a prop to have a conversation. Investing. So this is the tough one for the kids to understand. What's the difference between saving for something and investing? And the way that I explain it to, again, kids 5 or up pretty much get it. If you're saving for something that's going to make your life better in the future, Not something that we're just buying for enjoyment, but something that's going to have a long-term positive, possibly even permanent effect. That's investing. So older kids get this. Obviously, as adults, what we think of as retirement money, the money that we're saving for the kids for college. Those are the things that are investing for us. I think of investing for my daughter as a car expense. The ability to buy a car when she turns 16 and use that to go work and earn more money. I consider that to be an investment, right? So we talk about what kind of car she wants. Again, all of this stems from having a prop to start the conversation. It's just easier that way. As the kids get older, right? Here's the plan. As the kids get older, we're going to just increase those responsibilities. There will be bigger jobs. There will be more money that's coming from it and more responsibility going to it. And so the ultimate goal is, instead of doing a job and getting paid for it, we're moving towards the concept of capitation. Here comes your second resource to write down, a book called Capitate Your Kids, Capitate, Capitate. Capitated contract is just when one party pays another party a lump sum to take care of some job over time, and the payer doesn't really care how they do it. It comes a lot from the medical world, where, for example, doctors and hospitals are paid a lump sum to take care of a population of patients over time, and not necessarily just patient per patient per patient. The way that this applies to the kids is when we get to the teenage years, and this used to be called the sink or swim method for financial planning. They changed it for marketing, I think. This capitate method is every dime that we would have spent on my teenager's care, my teenager is going to get upfront, monthly. Maybe it's weekly to start, right? But it's a large, relatively speaking, sum of money for them. And that's going to be our chance to have a conversation about a budget. These are the things you need. So I spend this much for clothes. I spend this much for your food. I spend this much for etc. I'm going to help you and help guide you, but you're in charge of that now. And one quick point that's very important. We're not trying to shortchange them, right? We're not trying to teach them to be frugal yet. We're just literally taking what we would have spent on them and giving them the responsibility over that. And the whole purpose here is I want them to make mistakes. I want them to screw up. I want my daughter to accidentally blow her clothes money on the movies or whatever it is, because I want them to have those failures wherein their money universe is very small, and they can learn from that, right? Once they have that, I'm happy to send them off to life, to college, whatever, and have had that experience. I'm going to go past that. That's it. The whole thing is the capitation process, really. It's a great book. It's an easy read. Check it out. I'm sorry, I can't remember the author off the top of my head. I got it. I'll put it in the show notes. So let's talk about when we do send them off and planning for education. And I want to make a quick point that college isn't it for everyone. When I say education planning, everybody thinks I'm talking about college planning. They want to have a conversation about 529 plans, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, depending on time. But education, this is when we talked about delayed gratification as one of the skills we're teaching kids. This is like the ultimate in delayed gratification, right? Depending on which study you read, each year after high school of education that you add could add up to 15% to your income. Try telling that to some of the recent grads who haven't been able to get jobs, but again, study. Regardless of whether the college path is right for your kids or not, there needs to be money set aside for education. If you go to the YouTube page, my YouTube page, or it's on my Facebook page, just look for True Life Financial Planning. I did a piece called Beyond Investment Planning, and it kind of talks about the different levers that you can pull other than just trying to get 1 or 2% more out of your investments. And one of the biggest and most powerful levers that we can pull, especially early in our career, is increasing our income. So the impact of a 1% increase in income and savings rate is much more powerful than a 1% savings rate. I'm sorry, a 1% return increase. Go watch the video, it's there. But the point is, even if your kid is a mechanic or wants to be a shop owner or a financial advisor, all jobs that don't require any college education, by the way, there needs to be money set aside for professional development to make them the best that they can be at that, because moving that income up incrementally is going to have huge impacts on their life. So start saving, right? Start saving for education. If you consider your job to be to save for your kids' college, great, save for college. Be open to, if it's not college, be open to helping them get education in other ways, right? There's lots of ways to pay for school. Everybody thinks of, again, the 529 or student loans. Lots of folks pay for it out of cash flow if they can do that. They set aside specific earmarked accounts. Your retirement accounts are not specific earmarked accounts for education. Talk to a financial advisor about it, do some reading, but the IRA that you have, even though it grows tax-free, is probably not the best way for you to save for college. There's better options. Grants are available, scholarships are available, loans obviously are available. Again, I'm trying to keep this high level for you guys. I know it can be boring, but when it comes to grants and scholarships, you've got two kinds. You've got merit-based and you've got needs-based. Needs-based is going to be, based on your financial needs. So you're going to fill out a form called the FAFSA. I'm not even going to try. Basically, it's going to look at what your assets are and what the student's assets are, and it's going to use those to set some national financial aid levels. Some of the schools use a form called the profile form that accomplishes the same thing. There's a lot of money available on the other side on merit-based scholarships. You guys have tuned into a late night financial planning podcast. Granted, you were promised beer, but the odds are pretty good that your children are going to be more financially prepared for college than others, just because of who you are and that you came to this, right? So I'm sure you've got sharp kids, but it turns out that not all merit-based scholarships actually require you being smart. There's lots of smart scholarships. There's lots of fast or strong scholarships. There are lots of I'm left-handed scholarships. There are lots of I'm this percentage of this particular ethnic group scholarships. Again, this will go in the show notes, but www.studentscholarships.org, fastweb.com, scholarships.com, studentscholarshipsearch.com. 4 different search engines that I use with parents who have kids who are going to school in the next 2 to 3 years to search for national scholarships that are going to apply to the kid. The one downside to all of those, they don't know about the local stuff. My local chamber of commerce gives a couple of $100 a year for kids to go to school. Lots of organizations around Dallas who do things like that. Your kid could use the same essay for 4 different places, 5 different places, and get a few $100 or $1,000 at each place. Okay. The way to find out about the local stuff: send your kid to talk to the guidance counselor or the guidance department. Okay, student loans. Big thing I want you to know here: 2 types, private or federal. We don't have to go all the way down into it, but in 2012 things changed. In 2012, federal loans created a program called income-based repayment. It's a double-edged sword, but it's a good thing. So basically, if you take a federal loan and your normal 10-year payback time, that's what normal time on a student loan payback is 10 years. If that normal payment amount is more than 10% of your income, then you qualify for IBR, income-based repayment. You only have to pay 10% of your income for the loan. You're going to pay that over 20 years. At the end of 20 years, if there's anything left, your loan is forgiven. If you work for a nonprofit, 10 years and your loan is forgiven. So good news, you might have the loan forgiven. The bad news part of that, if you stretch that loan over 20 years, you're going to pay more in interest. Also, regardless of whether you stretch it over 10 or 20, if there's anything that's forgiven, you may be liable for income taxes on that forgiven loan. So if you've got $10,000 left in your student loan at the end of 20 years and they forgive it, then you're going to have income taxes. The good news is, if you made it out that far, you're probably in a pretty low income tax bracket anyway. So you may end up all right, but it's something to know about. Okay, 529 plans. These are my favorite. Okay, so this is where I geek out a little bit. We don't have time to go into all of the wonderful things that 529 plans can do, but things you do need to know. A 529 plan, it's named 529 because of the section of code in the tax code it was put after. You put money into this account. It's sponsored by the states. There are 51 different 529 plans available, one for each state, and I think Puerto Rico. If you live in a non-income tax state, no state income tax, so we're in Florida, no state income tax, great. I can choose any 529 plan that I want. We'll come back to the federal tax implications in a minute. If you live in a state that does have an income tax, you may be better off using your state's plan because you'll probably get state income tax benefits for doing that. Now, you do not you do not get any federal tax benefits for the money that you contribute to a 529 plan. It's not like a traditional IRA where if you put the money in, it comes off your taxes, right? No tax benefit there, but the money does grow inside of the 529 plan tax deferred. And if you use the money for a list of qualified expenses for college or other post-secondary stuff, education, it comes out tax-free too. If you use it for things that aren't education-based or don't qualify, there's a 10% penalty and you pay taxes. Not as bad as you think, but we don't have time tonight. Biggest misconception that I hear on 529s. My kids are smart. Tony, you just told me there's all these scholarships. I'm afraid that I'm going to put all the money into the 529 for college and they're going to get a full ride or some portion. And that money's just wasted. I'm going to have to pay a 10% penalty and taxes. It would have been better off just in my IRA. If the kids get grants or scholarships, you can take that money out pro rata, dollar for dollar. So if your kid gets a $10,000 scholarship, you can pull $10,000 out of the 529 for anything, right? They're not going to penalize you for having smart kids, strong kids, fast kids, left-handed kids. The other one is it's hard to waste the money in a 529, to be honest. You know, you can roll over that beneficiary for the account to any kid who's a blood relative. Even to yourself if you want to. So let's say that you send all the kids to college, there's money left in the 529, go over to the Sorbonne in France, take French lessons in an accredited school, right? There's a list of international schools that qualify. Take culinary classes, do whatever. There's ways to use that money and not pay the penalty. 529 only works for college. If you're looking for something for primary school or high school, private schools, you're looking for a Coverdell ESA. The rules are different. I'm not going to go into all right now, but if you're trying to pay for kids' private elementary or high school or middle school, junior school, they say in Texas here, I don't know. Google Coverdell ESA, Education Savings Account. All right, retirement planning. Real quick check on questions. Nothing. So either it's broken, which is probably what it is, or we don't have any. So retirement planning. So this is my bread and butter, right? This is where I make my big bucks. That being said, it can be complicated, so we're not going to go real deep into retirement planning. I want to hop on a soapbox for just a minute. Because when I say retirement planning, most people think of what's been sold as the traditional retirement, which is you work until sometime in your 60s, socking away money in the 401k or whatever you can until you can afford to no longer work anymore. And then you go and you play golf all day, or you go fishing all day, or you sail all day, or you sit on your ass and drink beer all day. I don't know. Travel the world if you want to. That's a good way to do it, and a lot of people do it that way. It's been sold as the only way to do it, though, and it's not. There are a slew of alternative investment and alternative retirement approaches that are out there. None of them are better than the others, guys. The truth is, when it comes to financial planning, there's not really, there's some technical approaches that there's only one way to do it because it's math. But when it comes to something as personal as how you're going to spend your life not working versus working and the trade-offs there's not one way that's better than the others. And watch out for those financial advisors who tell you this is the way that this should be done. We'll come back to that when we talk about some expense stuff. If you're looking for a great discussion on modern retirement ideas and this concept of the retire at age 60 something or other, check out Mitch Anthony's book, The New Retire Mentality. Again, I'll put the link in the show notes. It's got a great history of kind of where this came from and why it absolutely does not apply anymore. I'm not going to go into it here, but a hint, it was started when our life expectancy was 20 years less than what it is now. When you're doing this, again, don't look for an advisor who says this is the way you should absolutely do this. Look for somebody who is going to work with you and understand your values, and then build a plan around those, right? So the advisor should be starting with the why are we doing this in the first place? Because these are the values that are at the core of the client. Okay, so how are we going to do that? And that's the financial plan. And then finally, we talk about, well, what are we going to do it with? And that's your products, that's your investments, that's your insurance. If you get somebody going the other way around, there might be something missing. If you're a do-it-yourselfer, go to the blog through the True Life Financial website, tlfp.net. There's a great article in there about my suggested reading list for do-it-yourselfers. 2 books. Life Planning for You, George Kinder, and which is my favorite, and Value-Based Financial Planning, which is Bill Bacharach. Both of those are step-by-step processes that you can walk through. They also both offer advice about how to find a financial advisor that is going to do it the same way that they are, right? So start with your values, start with the why, figure out the how, then the what. Okay, so I didn't talk much about retirement, right? So I don't want to leave you empty-handed. So just a real quick high-level overview of the technical and boring crap. One of the biggest decisions that you can make is how are you saving for your retirement stuff? There's a bunch of different options out there, a bunch of different qualified plans and individual retirement accounts, etc. The big difference you're going to see there is how much can you put in them, the contribution limits. What's the tax treatment when you hit 59 and a half? Do you have the ability to access your funds without penalty before 59 and a half? There actually are some that you can. When are taxes paid? And if you're a business owner and you're setting this up for yourself or for your employees, one of the big differences for you is going to be complexity, right? So there's a trade-off between how much you can put into an account and the complexity of that account. One of the biggest decisions that you're going to be able to make, regardless of what type of plan that's available to you, is whether you're making Roth contributions or traditional contributions. This is one of those that a lot of you are sitting there thinking, hey, everybody knows this, but 1 out of 5 of you isn't really clear, and that's okay. It's pretty simple. Traditional IRA, you put in money that you didn't pay taxes on this year. It grows tax deferred. When you retire or you're post 59 and a half and you pull money out, that money is going to come out at your highest tax rate, ordinary income. Roth, flip it on its head. You put the money in this year, you don't get any tax breaks for it this year, but you're never going to pay taxes on it again. So it goes into the account, it grows between now and when you pull it out in retirement, and you don't have to pay whatever the capital gains rate would be on that. Lots of argument right now. Everybody thinks that they're right about which is better. Okay. The truth is, it depends on your situation. It really does. Again, I hate to keep going back to it. Talk to an advisor who can work out the different plans for you and show you, here's what happens if we make all Roth contributions. Here's what happens if we make all traditional. Here's what happens if we mix them up, right? A real quick word about balancing education savings, and retirement savings, because this is a question that I get a lot. Should I put the money in my IRA or should I put the money in the 529? And again, the answer from any good financial advisor or good attorney is always going to be, it depends. I do believe that every major purchase decision or major saving decision is a retirement decision ultimately, right? So if I decide to put the money into the kids' 529, yeah, it's an education planning decision, but ultimately I'm just kicking that expense kicking the can down the road, right? And that can stops at retirement when I stop working, if I do. So when you're making those decisions, make sure you're not just looking at how much to put away to save for college in the 529. Make sure you're looking at, okay, in this model, I saved this much in the 529, and here's the impact on my cash flow in retirement. And figure out what kind of shifts you're going to need to support that cash flow, right? This is one of the reasons that I work really hard to help clients make sure that they're living a life that they love and they're working a job that they love, because it's a whole lot easier to stay a couple more years if you need to at a job that you really love and don't want to leave anyway, than it is to slave away at something you just hate and I'm just going to do it until I just can't do it anymore, and then I'll be able to retire. And then to find out, well, if only I had spent the money on the kids' college, we'd have been done 2 years ago, right? Okay. Protecting your family. We've already been here through, hopefully, a beer for most of you. I'm talking so it's fast, and this is the most boring of all of it, so I apologize. I want to get real quickly into disability insurance and life insurance. I really think these are probably the most important parts. I need to put a caveat in here. I don't sell life insurance. I don't sell disability insurance. I had licenses to do those. I walked away from them. I do fee-only financial planning. No sales here. I'm not here to convert you into a life insurance believer so I can pull a commission, okay? What I can say is I've done a lot of financial planning through the last decade. And if everything went the way that we planned in life, we wouldn't have to worry about this. When was the last time that everything went the way you planned? I'm living stuff right now that never would have imagined. It's against all odds what we're going through, but it happens. Life happens, right? So it's important to be protected. I think disability insurance is more important than life insurance. It's pretty simple in my mind. When you're dead, financially speaking, you're not contributing to your family, right? To their well-being and all the things they need. That's the impact financially. When you're disabled, you probably still have that impact, but then you also probably have some additional medical needs. You also have some probably some additional care needs, right? So in my mind, if you've got something that you need to address first and you can't address both, address the disability needs. So disability insurance, it's simple. If you're too sick or hurt to work, it pays money to you, right? Doctor says, hey, he's too sick or hurt to work. You jump through some hoops in the contract. They're usually not that bad. And you start getting a check every month, as long as the doctor says you can't work, depending on the terms of your contract. Easiest place to get it is usually through your employer. So if you've been skipping the box every year at annual enrollment for disability insurance because you're going to be fine, stop. Pay the pennies on the dollar that it takes. If you absolutely can't afford it, take a minute and write down the things that you value in life, the things that are most important to you. I'm going to guess, since you're sitting on a financial podcast for dads, that your kids are pretty high on the list, higher than something else. I don't know what it is. And again, stay away from the financial advisors who tell you they know exactly what it is. They always go to, well, cut back on your cable. Cut back on your internet. Don't go out to eat so much. Don't buy so much Starbucks. I know people who movies are their life. Like that's what is at their core. And for me to tell them, hey, you shouldn't spend so much on movies, it's ridiculous. One, they're never going to be able to do it because I'm taking joy away from them. But there is something on your list where here are the kids at the list. Here's a bunch of other crap. I don't care what it is. Here's that thing. Scrape it off the list. Just get rid of it. Get disability insurance. Take care of your family. If you need ideas, let me know. Bump your internet speed down 1 notch. Won't kill you, I promise. The Xbox games will still download eventually. Sorry, just looking at the notes here, guys. Life insurance, I don't want to go really deep into life insurance. It's got a really bad rap. It's really popular to take a stance on one side or the other. It builds you a lot of followers. So there's a very well-known radio personality who has a very solid stance on insurance. He's not always right. He's not always right. Everything in this industry is case specific. So there are 2 main kinds of insurance. There's term insurance and there's permanent insurance. You've heard this before. I like the story, you know, term insurance is like renting an apartment, right? When you rent an apartment, you pay a set lease for a given term. You have the right to live in the apartment while the lease is on, as long as you don't screw up the terms. At the end of the lease, the apartment company has the right to adjust the lease price, and then you can re-sign if you want to, right? Term insurance works the same way. You buy a set term of insurance, you're covered while that term is in place, and it's a set fee for that term. Later on, whether it's 10 years, 20 years down the road, you're 10 or 20 years older, it costs more to insure older people. The price is going to go up. You can buy another lease if you want to, right? But that's it. The only thing that you get is the right to a lump sum of money if you die. It's death insurance, pure and simple. Permanent insurance tends to have some kind of cash value in it. It's kind of, the insurance people like to say, it's like buying the house. You know, yes, you're going to have more expenses and it's going to be more involved and more upfront, but you're building equity. And it's true. And it can be accessed tax-free. But that still doesn't make it right for everybody. It's a case-by-case basis. So make sure that you're looking into what fits for you and get multiple opinions. You know, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And, you know, we see it all the time where it's a great life insurance plan, but maybe it doesn't address the other pieces of the financial plan as well, right? And everything you do, if you haven't figured this out yet, every piece of your plan, every single thing that you do affects every other piece. That's why comprehensive planning is so important. That's it. I went longer than I wanted to, and I didn't have any jokes, and so I apologize. Next time, it was recommended that I wear a robe and sit in front of a fireplace. I'll try that. I don't know. But I hope this was kind of helpful for you guys. I know it was high level. I would love to do this more often and have a little bit more fun with it and speak to things that are more meaningful to you. So if you would, send an email to tony@tlfp.net. Again, it'll be in the comments section below the YouTube page. Ask me a question on Facebook. Pop it on the True Life Financial Planning Facebook page. We'll address it here. We'll make sure that it gets answered in the blog. That's my way of doing free financial planning for folks. If it's broad enough, right, it's just going to be hypothetical answers. But yeah, I'd like to do that for you. So I don't know whether the questions are broken or whether there aren't any. I'm going to cut it off here as opposed to sit here and wait, because we're going to upload this to YouTube afterwards. So if there's questions, send them to me. Guys, thanks again for being here and sitting through this. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. Have a great night.